Hello and welcome, my friend, to the Renaissance English History Podcast, a part of the Agora Podcast Network, and the original Tudor History Podcast, telling stories of Tudor England since 2009. I am your hostess, Heather, and I'm a storyteller who makes history accessible because I believe it's a pathway into understanding who we are, our place in the universe, and being much more deeply in touch with our own humanity. So this is episode 241, and it's a listener request episode on the Wyatts, specifically the first patriarch during the Tudor period, at least, Henry Wyatt, and then his children, Thomas Wyatt and Margaret Wyatt. So we are going to talk about the Wyatt family today. Henry Wyatt was apparently kept alive by a cat. So, that's random, and we will get into it. We will talk about it. But first, your reminder that TudorCon online tickets are available. TudorCon is 3 days of Tudor merriment and learning and friendship and community with people who just get you, people who just get your love of Tudor history, who won't roll their eyes at you when you want to talk about whether Anne of Cleves was really the ugly one or not, like all that stuff. We're all here for it. And the in-person tickets are, of course, sold out, but we have a wonderful and exciting online experience as well. So you can go to englandcast.com/TudorCon online to learn more about that. And I do have a space limit for it. I know it's like, oh, it's Zoom, you can just have unlimited. I get it, but we also want to be able to manage it. And it won't work if there's, 10,000 people in the room. So, we have limits with our Zoom space and stuff like that. So, englandcast.com/TudorCon online to learn more. And you can use the code early online to save $10. That's still valid. I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep that up because, I don't really plan these things out as I should. But we're still early. It's still 3 months away, 3 and a little. So I'm keeping that up while we're still early. So there you go. So I am coming to you today, podcasting to you today about the Wyatts from a hotel in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm here for the Canadian Help Library Association meeting because, of course, many of you know that the other part of my life involves libraries, and I work with some really amazing mission-driven organizations that support libraries and support libraries through databases and automation and stuff like that. So I've been in libraries for a long time, and I am happy to be in a new place. I've never been to Winnipeg before. I actually would not have been able to find it on a map, but I am here in Winnipeg podcasting with you right now. So let us get into it. Let's talk about the Wyatt family. We're going to start with Henry Wyatt, the patriarch during our period. Of course, there were other patriarchs during other parts of the family's history, but we are interested in the Tudor part of the family's history. So we're going to start with Henry, who was born in Yorkshire around 1460. His early life was marked by his support of the Lancastrian cause. This, of course, is during the period of the Wars of the Roses. So he was very loyal to the Lancastrian faction, which led him to become a prominent supporter of Henry Tudor, the future Henry VII. Now, in 1483, he was involved in the Duke of Buckingham's revolt against Richard III. This was the revolt where the Duke of Buckingham wanted to place Henry Tudor on the throne. Henry Tudor was going to come across the channel, but there was bad storms. He wasn't able to get across. The whole thing just fell apart. The revolt was unsuccessful. There were very severe consequences. Buckingham was killed, and Wyatt was put in the Tower of London. So apparently his time in captivity has become the stuff of legends. There's many stories of the harsh treatment that he endured and his endurance during that time. He was allegedly tortured. There are accounts suggesting that he was racked. that he had horse barnacles applied to his mouth and was force-fed mustard and vinegar. That sounds deeply unpleasant. Apparently, though, a very famous legend is that a cat brought him pigeons to eat, which helped him to survive through the harsh conditions of his imprisonment. So, needless to say, the veracity of these stories is up for grabs, but it does underscore the fact that this Henry Wyatt was not somebody to be messed with. He had some resilience and he faced some brutality and he came out of it on the other side, still alive, maybe having fed on pigeons that were brought to him from a cat. Stranger things have happened in the world. I don't know. I'm not going to question it. Cats are pretty awesome and intelligent creatures, so I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm not going to debate that. But let's talk about what happened to Henry when Richard III died and Henry VII ascends to the throne. Following the Battle of Bosworth, Richard is defeated. Wyatt is released from prison. His loyalty to Henry Tudor is richly rewarded. He joined Henry VII's court and he rose rapidly through the ranks, reflecting the new king's appreciation for his unwavering support. So Henry appointed Wyatt to several very prestigious positions, recognizing his talent and his loyalty. He was made the keeper and later the constable of Norwich Castle, which was a role that he held for life. He also became the master of the king's jewels, which was a position he held for 34 years, and he was the controller of the mint, where he played a very crucial role in reorganizing the mint and the coinage. His expertise and his reliability made him a trusted advisor and key figure in the administration of Henry VII's government. Wyatt's contributions extended beyond administrative duties. He served as the joint executor of Henry VII's will, ensuring that the king's last wishes were carried out. His military prowess was also recognized. In 1513, he was appointed governor of Carlisle, where he was responsible for defending the border against the Scots. So this role then also highlights his strategic importance in maintaining the kingdom's security. So this guy was just everywhere doing a lot of different things. After Henry VIII ascends to the throne, he stays in service. At Henry's coronation, Wyatt was made a Knight of the Bath, which further cemented his status as a distinguished and trusted courtier. His career under two Tudor monarchs exemplifies his adaptability and the high regard in which he was held both as a loyal servant and as a capable leader. Henry Wyatt's life was marked not only by his political and military contributions, but also his significant domestic achievements. In 1502, he married Anne Skinner. He was already a little bit older by this point. He was in his 40s. This began a very prosperous and influential period in his life. One of the most notable accomplishments during this time was the purchase and renovation of Allington Castle, which had been acquired from the trustees of Robert Gainsford in 1492. The castle was in a state of disrepair. Wyatt and his son undertook extensive renovations to restore and enhance its grandeur. His wife, Anne, would have also been involved with that work. So it was a family job, but these improvements included the installation of large Tudor windows, a lady's bower, a new fireplace, a long gallery, a new kitchen, and a staircase. So these changes not only improved the castle's aesthetic appeal, but also made it a comfortable residence suitable for hosting high-profile visitors. Allington Castle became a significant site for notable interactions with key figures of the Tudor court. Among its distinguished visitors were people like Henry VIII and Cardinal Wolsey, which again shows Wyatt's prominent position and the castle's importance as a social and political hub. Wyatt's connections extended to influential personalities like Sir Thomas Boleyn, father of Anne Boleyn, showing how deeply entangled he was in the political and social fabric of the time. Henry Wyatt's administrative capabilities were also equally impressive. As the treasurer of the King's Chamber, he was responsible for raising funds for various military campaigns, showcasing his financial acumen and trustworthiness. His role in the Privy Council, particularly as a member of the Select Body, positioned him at the heart of Tudor governance, where he was involved in critical decision-making processes. Additionally, he played a crucial role in the dissolution of lesser monasteries, a significant event during the Reformation, through which he acquired lands in Essex and Milton. These acquisitions not only increased his wealth, but also cemented his influence in the region. Henry Wyatt's career came to a close in 1528 when he resigned from his official posts. He spent his final years at Allington Castle, passing away in 1536. He was nearly 80 years old. He was buried at Milton Gravesend, leaving behind a legacy of loyalty to the Tudors, service, and contributions to the dynasty. Now, Henry Wyatt has been wrapped up in a lot of different myths and legends, many of which have been debunked by historians. The most famous of these is his alleged imprisonment and torture in the Tower of London by Richard III. Contemporary research suggests that Wyatt's imprisonment likely occurred in Scotland, not in the Tower of London, and many of the torture stories, while colorful, lack verifiable evidence, like the cat. Despite these myths, the core of Wyatt's resilience and loyalty, the truth of that is still intact. Now, Wyatt's role in the transition from the Wars of the Roses to the establishment of the Tudor dynasty is of considerable historical significance. He was like one of these bridge figures. So he saw a lot of different things happen. He came of age during the Wars of the Roses and then bridged that gap and was still alive buying lands during the Reformation. So that is an amazing life to have lived. Now we're going to talk about his son, Sir Thomas Wyatt the Elder, poet, courtier, and court intriguer. So Thomas Wyatt was born in 1503, was the eldest son of Sir Henry and Anne Skinner. He had two siblings. There was a younger brother, Henry, who died in infancy probably, and also a sister, Margaret, who we'll talk about in a second. Thomas's education began at St. John's College, Cambridge, where he demonstrated early promise as a scholar and poet. His education provided him with a strong foundation in classical literature and languages, which of course would later influence his literary works. Now, he did grow up knowing the Boleyn family in childhood. That's an important thing to know about him because of all of the different rumors that he might have had a love affair with Anne Boleyn early on. Of all of the people who were accused, he is probably the one for which there's the most evidence of something having happened. And he and George and Anne all would have come into contact with each other, have seen each other around during their childhoods as well. So that's important to know too. But his career at court did begin under the reign of Henry VIII. Of course, in 1520, his charm, his intelligence, his education earned him favor with the king. His diplomatic skills were soon put to use in several important missions. Coincidentally, just as Henry was wooing Anne and wanted any potential competitors out of the way. In 1526, he was sent to Spain, where he observed the court of Charles V. This experience exposed him to the political and cultural complexities of the time, enriching his understanding of European politics. Then in 1527, he went to Italy. This was a particularly influential trip in his development as a poet. He encountered the works of Petrarch for the first time. The themes and the structures of Petrarch's poetry left a lasting impact on Wyatt, inspiring him to adapt the sonnet form for English literature. Like I said, one of the most notable aspects of Wyatt's court life was his relationship with Anne. While the exact nature of their relationship is a matter of historical debate, it's widely believed that Wyatt harbored very strong feelings for Anne. His poems are filled with longing and admiration and suggest an emotional connection that transcended more courtly affection. I did do an episode, I think it was actually a members-only episode for YouTube members and Patreon members, on a deep dive into Thomas and Anne and what the evidence says about their relationship. And, basically the gist is, if you don't have a chance to go watch that Anne does make an appearance in his poetry, and he clearly had some feelings for her that were very deep. Anne Boleyn's rise and fall were closely intertwined with Wyatt's fortunes. As Anne became Henry VIII's queen, Wyatt's position at court was both bolstered and threatened. His proximity to Anne brought him favor, but it also entangled him in the dangerous political intrigue surrounding her. When Anne was accused of adultery and treason in 1536, Wyatt was among those arrested and imprisoned in the Tower of London, although he was eventually released. But this period of imprisonment left a lasting mark on him, as of course it would. Thomas Wyatt's literary contributions, though, are significant, and that's really what he probably should be remembered for, particularly his introduction of the sonnet form to English literature. So he adapted the form from Petrarch, making it accessible to an English audience and setting the stage for future poets like Shakespeare. Wyatt's poetry often explored themes of love, longing, and the complexities of court life. His works include Whoso List to Hunt, believed to reflect his feelings for Anne Boleyn, and They Flee From Me, which contemplates the transient nature of relationships. The Whoso List to Hunt is possibly one of the biggest pieces of evidence of his relationship with Anne Boleyn. It ends with, Who list her hunt, I put him out of doubt, as well as I may spend his time in vain. And graven with diamonds in letters plain there is written, Her fair neck round about, Noli me tangere, for Caesar's I am, and wild for to hold, though I seem tame. Wyatt's influence extended beyond his own works. He played a pivotal role in the development of English Renaissance poetry. He's credited with bridging the gap between medieval and modern poetic forms. His experimentation with verse and his blending of Italian and English styles enriched the literary landscape of his time and, like I said, set the stage for Shakespeare and later poets. Thomas Wyatt did marry Elizabeth Brooks in 1520. The couple had one child, a son named Thomas Wyatt the Younger. Their marriage, however, was tumultuous, marked by separations and reconciliations. Elizabeth Brooke was a notable figure in her own right, and after the execution of Catherine Howard, rumors circulated that Henry VIII actually might consider her as a potential wife. Although these rumors never materialized into reality, they highlight, just how impressive Elizabeth was, that she was someone who would have caught the eye of Henry. The fact that there even were rumors show that, she was somebody who could have been considered. Thomas Wyatt actually went to the Tower of London a second time then. He was implicated in 1541 in another plot against Henry, and the specific circumstances around this accusation remain pretty obscure. But it's believed that his close association with high-profile figures at court and the volatile political climate made him a target of suspicion. During this period in 1541, this is after Cromwell has been put to death, things are really up in the air. There's a lot of factionalism. There's a lot of back and forth. And Wyatt's earlier connections, including his relationship with Anne Boleyn, his interactions that he had with the Seymours and other influential families, may have contributed to the mistrust against him. The precise nature of the conspiracy is unclear, but there were allegations of treason and disloyalty to Henry VIII. So Wyatt was arrested and confined to the Tower in 1541. He maintained his innocence, but the charges against him were serious enough to warrant his detention. He was eventually released from the Tower, largely due to the intervention of his influential friends, his own protestations of loyalty to the king. But his health had suffered significantly due to the harsh conditions of imprisonment, and even though he was pardoned, the experience left a lasting impact on him. He continued to serve Henry, but was under a cloud of suspicion until he died in 1542. He was only 39, and his death marked the end of a tumultuous yet impactful life. Posthumously, his reputation grew as his poetry gained recognition and appreciation. He was remembered not only as a pioneering poet, but also as a courtier who navigated the treacherous waters of Henry VIII's court with a blend of wit, charm, and resilience. Now let's talk about Margaret, the lady-in-waiting and loyal sister. Margaret was born around 1506, and she grew up on an estate near Hever, the home of the Boleyn family. Although there's no solid documentary evidence, it is speculated that Margaret and Anne may have known each other from childhood because they were very close to each other, like in proximity physically. And we know that she had encountered Thomas, so the siblings all probably knew each other. Now, of course, not a lot is known about Margaret's life early on, her education, but in 1532 she did marry Sir Anthony Lee, who was a respected courtier and soldier. So their marriage was fruitful. They had 9 children, including Henry Lee. God bless her, 9 children. Okay, moving on. Henry Lee would later become a notable courtier and Elizabeth I's champion. The Lee family's status and Margaret's role at court solidified her position within the Tudor aristocracy. So Margaret served as a lady-in-waiting to Anne Boleyn when she was queen, which was a position, of course, of significant status and influence. She's believed to have held the position of Mistress of the Wardrobe, granting her daily proximity to the queen. This role would have placed her at the center of the Tudor court's intricate social and political dynamics. Now, she did also accompany Anne on her journey to Calais, which some speculate made her a witness to Anne and Henry's secret wedding ceremony that they had. Although there's not contemporary evidence to confirm this, it is what the lore says, and it is kind of something that's come down through word of mouth through the years, so who knows. Also, one of the enduring traditions about Margaret Wyatt is her unwavering loyalty to Anne. It's said that she was present at Anne's execution, standing by her side on the scaffold. According to a manuscript written by Thomas Wyatt's grandson, Anne gave Margaret a prayer book inscribed with the words, "Remember me when you pray, that hope doth lead from day to day." This poignant gesture highlights the deep bond and loyalty between the two women. Again, some historians question whether or not this is true. Whether it is or isn't, either way, it does reflect the enduring narrative of loyalty and friendship that characterizes Margaret's legacy. Margaret Wyatt's later years were marked by her continued influence and the legacy of her children. So she died in 1555, and she was commemorated in an elegy by the poet Grimald. So the funeral elegy, which is called an epitaph of the Lady Margaret Lee, it suggests that the reader should man by woman learn this life what we may call. It talks about her blood, friendship, beauty, and youth, and her other qualities. She was buried alongside her husband in Quarrendon Chapel, which now lies in ruins. When Elizabeth I ascended to the throne, she favored her Boleyn relatives and their surviving friends. Margaret's son, Sir Henry Lee, served as Elizabeth's champion at her coronation, which was a testament to the enduring ties between Wyatt and Boleyn families. Elizabeth's recognition of Margaret's son likely honored the bonds of friendship and loyalty that characterized Margaret's life and service at court. So Margaret Wyatt's story, though less documented than that of her brother Thomas, remains a testament to the intricate personal and political relationships in the Tudor court. So the Wyatt family really, we mentioned a couple times them being like a bridge. So Henry was the first one who was the bridge between the Wars of the Roses to then, having a life that lived all the way until the Reformation. And then Thomas Wyatt was a bridge in terms of poetry from the medieval poems to the more modern ones. So they were definitely a family that was part of this transition. They also have a compelling narrative of loyalty, of service, and resilience. Whether or not he was kept alive by a cat, I'm obsessed with that. I'm just obsessed with the cat story. I'm just going to admit that right now. I'm going to keep thinking about this cat, freaking pigeon, to Henry. But anyway, whether or not that happened, Henry Wyatt did clearly support Henry Tudor during the end of the Wars of the Roses and was there for Henry's rise, was one of the early supporters, and then continued to serve Henry VIII. And then Thomas Wyatt the Elder expanded the family's legacy through his pioneering literary works and his intricate involvement in the politics of Henry VIII court. As a diplomat and a poet, Thomas introduced the sonnet form to English literature and left an indelible mark on the English Renaissance. Despite his premature death, Thomas Wyatt's poetic contributions and his embodiment of the courtier poet archetype continue to be celebrated. And then Margaret Wyatt, though less prominently known, exemplified loyalty and service as a lady-in-waiting to Anne Boleyn. Her close association with the Queen and her presence during Anne's final days highlight the personal bonds and emotional stakes of the Tudor court. Margaret's legacy through her children and the continued favor of the Elizabethan court reflects the enduring impact of the Wyatt family's service and connections. So I think in the next episode, I'll go to the next level. So Henry Lee and Thomas Wyatt the younger as well, and kind of talk about Henry Wyatt's grandchildren and that next generation. So maybe we'll do that next week. But for now, we will leave it here. Thank you so much for being here with me. I've enjoyed spending the last 20-some odd minutes with you. I hope that you got value out of it as well. I very much appreciate you being here. I appreciate all your support and all of your listenership. Again, englandcast.com/TudorCon online to learn all about the online TudorCon experience. It's going to be so much fun. And I think that's all I have to say for now. Thank you again for being here. I will talk with you again next week. Bye-bye.
Blow, northern wind, send who may be sweating. Blow, northern wind, blow, blow, blow. Ich hatte Bord in Bauerbricht, dat soll is Semlis on sich. Mensch, cool Meiden of me.